What's up? Everybody doing good? Saturday morning, 49ers are finalizing their coaching staff. Brian Griese, the man on the screen right next to me, is going to replace Rich Scangarello as the quarterback's coach. And as always, we had some wild knee-jerk reactions on Twitter. Everybody trying to get their hot takes out yesterday. Well, there really are no hot takes to be had here. Brian Griese is coming over from Monday Night Football. He has no coaching experience, so we just have to sit back and wait and see how he does as the main man in charge of Trey Lance's development. And as far as the quarterback position room goes, we know that Kyle Shanahan is going to be ultimately responsible for how this works out with Trey Lance, as well as general manager John Lynch. But the coach who will be with Trey the most, is going to be in that position room hour to hour, day to day, is going to be Brian Griese, the former Michigan quarterback. He started over Tom Brady at Michigan. And then the quarterback who was drafted by Mike Shanahan to the Denver Broncos. So this is a hire that's going to be under tremendous scrutiny. But the thing is, you can't really make a firm judgment on it right now, even though a lot of people want to. They want to yell no experience. They want to yell, oh, this is out of left field. Well, I'm here to really illustrate how it definitely wasn't out of left field. And I'm here to maybe illustrate some insight into what the 49ers might be thinking as far as Griese's lack of experience coaching per se, but his wealth of experience with football and the quarterback position as it relates to what they want to do with Trey Lance in his unique development, because this certainly isn't just every other quarterback development scenario. This is a very specific formula that the 49ers want to follow with Trey Lance, that they're continuing from the time that they invested so much to draft him. And I'm going to explain all of that in this video. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel as we get into the main talking points today. We have, just coincidentally, the big Trey Lance breakdown that we're doing. 8 episodes for 8 quarters of football as the 49ers starter in 2021. So we're covering every single Trey Lance snap from this season. We're 4 episodes in, so exactly halfway in. Just finished the Arizona game, moving on to the Houston game 3 months later in week 17. So if you subscribe and you go back and watch those videos, 4 of them are already up. We have them in a nice playlist, and I'm really, really looking forward to getting the next 4 to you. And if there's popular demand, then we'll go ahead and tack on 2 bonus episodes to that to make it a 10-episode series with the 2 quarters that Trey Lance debuted against Seattle. But today we're here to talk about Brian Griese, who doesn't have coaching experience. It's true. He has 10 years of NFL playing experience, played for the Broncos. He also played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay is actually where he met Kyle Shanahan. Kyle there was an offensive quality control coach in the early 2000s, and it's where Brian Griese played later in his career. So they crossed paths there, and I'm sure that they crossed paths in Denver when Kyle Shanahan was a teenager and Mike was the coach of the Broncos. That's when Griese was drafted into the NFL. But despite the fact that Griese doesn't have coaching experience, he does know the game in a unique way that Shanahan certainly feels applies well to coaching Trey Lance. And we're going to spend this video explaining that. Because consider where Brian Griese's career started. The thumbnail to this video definitely should show you that. And I mean, here's another picture if you want to see it on the right. It started under Mike Shanahan. The Broncos drafted Griese in 1998. What's more, they drafted Griese when they still had another guy. And I'm going to find a picture of him, hopefully, at some point right here on Google. They've got to have a Griese John Elway photo somewhere, right? And maybe they don't. I mean, it'd be awesome if they did, because that would kind of bring everything full circle here. But it's a lot of Griese Shanahan photos and not a lot of Griese Elway photos. Oh, well. Here it is. We got it. There's the money shot. There's John Elway. There's Brian Griese, upper right of your screen. And that is where the connection truly lies. There are 2 Shanahan quarterback prototypes. John Elway, and you might have guessed it, this guy right here, Steve Young. Before Mike Shanahan went to the Denver Broncos, he coached Steve Young as the offensive coordinator of the 49ers from 1992 to 1994. And throughout the 90s, Mike Shanahan had his greatest success as both a play caller and a head coach. He obviously won 2 Super Bowls with the Denver Broncos when he was coaching John Elway. This is where the Shanahan prototypical quarterback was formed. It was, by definition, a guy that can precisely deliver from the pocket, but also punish defenses with his legs and his athleticism. Remember, before the 49ers drafted Trey Lance, Kyle Shanahan said that he's looking for a quarterback who can throw like Drew Brees, yet run like Lamar Jackson. He wanted the combination of both. And that's how we knew that they weren't going to pick Mac Jones. That's how we knew that it was really narrowed down, probably to Trey Lance, because the precision passing coming from play action concepts under center, Lance had actually demonstrated the ability to at least develop in that mold through the offense under Randy Hedberg and North Dakota State. So given the 2 prototypical molds, given the fact that Steve Young was the first prototypical Shanahan quarterback from 92 to 94, and then John Elway was the second prototypical quarterback, it makes sense that the 49ers, in their development of Trey Lance, would want to toe the same line and find a guy who literally was in the room back when this prototype was perfected. And this is where we go back to Brian Griese, who was drafted by the Denver Broncos in 1998. His rookie season was spent learning from Brian Griese, similar to how Trey Lance's rookie season was spent learning under Jimmy Garoppolo. So Brian Griese was learning under John Elway, Trey Lance learning under the veteran Jimmy Garoppolo this past season. What's interesting in this parallel is that after the first season, after John Elway retired, Mike Shanahan actually tried to convince this guy, Steve Young, to not retire and to come to the Denver Broncos to start for him, similar to a lot of Tom Brady rumors right now. And it's funny because everything is connected by the fact that Brian Griese was the starter at Michigan ahead of Brady. But lo and behold, Steve Young did not return to the NFL. His retirement was official. Brian Griese took over as the quarterback, the starter for the Denver Broncos, and the rest was history. Griese played under Shanahan, and then obviously he met Kyle Shanahan at an older age when he was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Kyle Shanahan had his first job under John Gruden as an offensive quality control coach. So you can trace this lineage all the way back to the Elway years and, by extension, the Steve Young years. Brian Griese developed and entered the NFL at that time. He's obviously been an analyst now for Monday Night Football. If you watch those broadcasts, you know that he knows the game, and you know that he's connected to the principles that Kyle Shanahan wants to make sure that the 49ers embedded to Trey Lance. And that's pocket first, run when you need to, make sure that those legs are a weapon that can expose defenses, make sure that mobility is not just some kind of crutch. Make sure that mobility is a weapon, but it's only used when it's absolutely needed to be used. So it's pocket first, mobility is the coup de grace coming after it. That's what 49ers are looking for out of Trey Lance, and that's the fine line that they have to straddle moving forward in his development. So right now, there's huge rush to judgment on Brian Griese. You see takes that are completely off the wall. I think probably in either direction, but especially the negative ones. And they're completely ridiculous, but not surprising, because we see this with every single 49ers transaction these days. Somebody has to be out there first saying it's a bad move so they could pretend that they know football, so that they could pretend like, I'm somehow more than know on how quarterback coach machinations work and how staff machinations work than the person who was actually sitting in the interview room. But I mean, at the end of the day, Kyle Shanahan interviewed Brian Griese and social media didn't. So that's all I have to say. Brian Griese has a skill set that I just outlined. Brian Griese has an experience set that I just outlined. And Brian Griese is now going to be tasked with imparting that knowledge on Trey Lance. He may not have coaching experience, but after an interview process that we weren't part of, but that Kyle Shanahan was part of, the 49ers have made the determination that Brian Griese can appropriately communicate what he knows, and obviously what he knows is very relevant based on what I stated onto Trey Lance. And that's the key. If Kyle Shanahan thinks that, I think Shanahan deserves the benefit of the doubt. So it's fine to wait and see. It's fine not to have a hot take. It's fine to sit back, go through the potential qualifications, the potential thought process of what the 49ers think regarding Brian Griese, and then let the benefit of the doubt speak for itself. And Kyle Shanahan has indisputably managed his coaching staff well. The 49ers lost 8 coaches this offseason, most of them to poaching promotions from other teams. When that much of your staff is getting poached, it means that you're doing something right. So Shanahan has developed the coaching staff to the point where even after the 6-10 season in 2020, guys were getting poached elsewhere because there's a respect around the league for what the 49ers are doing. On top of that, the 49ers have won whenever they've been healthy, and you can't blame the coaching staff for injuries. So obviously, there is a track record here for the 49ers of being able to hire good coaches. That's why they should get the benefit of the doubt, because we're not going to make a judgment here. We're not going to say, oh my God, they hired a quarterback coach with no coaching experience. This is going to go terribly. Well, every other piece of data, especially if you look at it in general, in the big picture, suggests that the 49ers know what they're doing as far as hiring coaches. So because of that, we go back to the experience. And the experience here, I think, is obvious. Denver drafted Griese ahead of Elway's final season, and that's his NFL story started. His NFL story has since accrued a ton more experience. When you're the Monday Night Football broadcaster, you get to see essentially how every single organization works. This is something that John Lynch was able to glean when he was a broadcaster from Fox. He was able to see the ins and outs of the league and get, behind the scenes footage, essentially behind the scenes intel of every front office. And then he has now applied that to his own GM job with the 49ers. So I know that this is not an executive role. I know this is a positional coaching role, but I can guarantee you that Griese, as a former quarterback, as the son of a quarterback, and Bob Griese, asked a lot of the QB questions over his 10 years or so, or I don't think it was 10 years in the booth, over his time in the booth. And then obviously over his 10 years as a quarterback, he became qualified to discuss and analyze and eventually coach the position. On top of that, we have to realize that Brian Griese is taking what is very likely a massive, massive pay cut for this job. You saw how much money there is in television right now when John Lynch got offered around $15 million per year to be for Amazon's new TV NFL lineup. Well, Brian Griese was certainly making more as an ESPN Monday Night Football commentator than he will be with the 49ers as their quarterback's coach. And he's also going to be putting in more hours because coaching in the NFL is no joke. There's a reason why somebody like Steve Young is very likely not going to take a QB coach job in the league, because Steve Young, he's got it made, right? Steve Young is, working in private equity. Steve Young is on ESPN. Steve Young gets to see his family. He retired after that 1998 season, and he didn't take that job, the quarterback job with Denver under Mike Shanahan, and let Griese have it instead, because he wanted to start a family, because he actually wanted to be at home. Being a head coach or an assistant coach or any NFL coach, those are going to be long nights. It's 1 a.m., 2 a.m., back at the office at 6 a.m. These are big time grinds. And for Brian Griese to go from a broadcasting role to what's certainly going to be an arduous job, being the guy in charge of Trey Lance's development in that room, working those long hours that Kyle Shanahan is going to expect, that means that Brian Griese wants to do it. That means there's going to be a sacrifice here, especially since it entails a pay cut. So I think that all parties had to be on board, not just Griese wanting to do it, but the 49ers thinking that he's ready to impart his knowledge on Trey Lance moving forward for this to work. On top of all of this, speculation about coaching inexperience, consider what the 49ers have established around Brian Griese as far as an offensive brain trust. You obviously have Shanahan, who's well respected around the league. But, then you have Bobby Slowick, the assistant who was the passing game specialist for the 49ers, who, when we talked about Scangarello leaving and we mentioned the potential replacements for Scangarello, we talked about Bobby Slowick being on the list. But we weren't sure, does Bobby Slowick have enough experience? Do the 49ers feel they can thrust him into a direct QB coach role? And the answer ended up being, well, no, but they're going to keep him around. And he's still going to be in that quarterback's room in all likelihood. And he can work with Brian Griese to take some of the pressure off the new quarterback's coach. So you have Slowick, who's familiar with the ins and outs of the 49ers pass game and what they want from a, technical standpoint from the quarterbacks. He's still going to be in the room. He's going to be next to Griese. And now you also have Anthony Lynn. Anthony Lynn, of course, is a run game specialist as far as schematics go, but he's been a head coach before. And I think that the 49ers are happy with the brain trust on that offensive end that includes Shanahan, Anthony Lynn, Bobby Slowick, and now also Brian Griese. So this is how the staff is formed. There's going to be pieces taken from every which way. Some stuff is not going to be a full known right away, but for that, we have to do a little extra work. We can't just get out here and start shouting off, platitudes about the quarterback coaching position that we probably know next to nothing about. We do a little bit of research. We look where Brian Griese has come from. We connect the dots and we see, okay, hey, this is probably what Kyle is thinking. And now we'll see if what Kyle's thought process will work. I'll open it up to some questions and then we'll get on with our Saturdays. Hi, guys. The choice of Griese after Beathard and Hoyer causes me to question Shanahan's judgment. Your thoughts? Well, I think I just delivered my thoughts on that. Shanahan also chose Trey Lance. Hoyer, I don't think you hold against Shanahan. Hoyer was a placeholder quarterback. They weren't expecting to keep Hoyer around for long. They weren't really expecting to win with Hoyer. Beathard was a third-round quarterback who they thought they could develop, and they didn't. I don't think they ever thought he was going to be the franchise quarterback. Listen, the 49ers' plan in 2017 when they took over was to go with a placeholder in Hoyer in that first season and then go and sign a veteran who many people thought might be Kirk Cousins in 2018, but they ended up getting Jimmy Garoppolo instead. And to be honest, that plan ended up working out fairly well. They ended up going to the Super Bowl in 2019 and the NFC Championship game in 2021. In fact, every single season, the 49ers have had a healthy starting quarterback or a healthy-ish because Garoppolo was hurt at the end of the season. They made it to at least the NFC Championship game. So this whole narrative that Shanahan hasn't managed the quarterback position all that well while he's been with the 49ers, I think that's people grasping at us. Because he's now managed to parlay that, winning under Jimmy Garoppolo with a chance at big-time transcendence in the future, and that's Trey Lance. So right now, they're still trying to figure out how they're going to trade Jimmy Garoppolo, what exactly is going to happen on that front. But this video is not about Garoppolo. This video is about the development of Lance moving forward. If Kyle Shanahan is going to move from the era of good at quarterback, he's established an era of good, but obviously it's been a fragile good because Garoppolo's gotten hurt a lot. If he wants to leap into the realm of greatness for a long time, the key is to develop Trey Lance properly and to develop him well. And to develop Trey Lance well, you need to reach the ideal. And the ideal is precision pocket passing combined with electric mobility. And to do that, you bring in a guy who's seen it done. Brian Griese's seen it done with Elway. You bring in a guy who's been around the league for long enough to have seen it done around multiple teams throughout this new wave of mobile quarterbacks. And I think that Brian Griese does fit that bill. This is what the 49ers are thinking, and we'll see if it works as far as translating Griese's wealth of knowledge into actual coaching prowess. Am I sure that a career backup can bring something to an inexperienced youngster, especially with no coaching experience? No, I'm not sure. I'm telling the whole time that I'm not sure. But Brian Griese is not playing. Brian Griese, his job is to take knowledge and impart it on Trey Lance. And he indisputably has the knowledge that the 49ers want. That's why I outlined his time with Elway, with Mike Shanahan, his time actually with Kyle Shanahan. And I don't discount the time in the broadcast booth. He has the knowledge, and he has to communicate the knowledge to Trey Lance. He doesn't have to sit under center and actually take snaps. And as far as the unknown goes, as far as what we don't know, Griese sat in an interview room, likely an extensive interview, with Kyle Shanahan, after which Shanahan determined that he indeed would be able to impart said knowledge on Trey Lance. That all is true. Shanahan has decided that. Everything else is speculation. Everything else is we'll see moving forward. All right, questions. We'll find out about the special teams coach next week. The 49ers will announce their whole staff. Trey has a Mahomes and Allen attribute strong arms and moves in the pocket well and out of the pocket. I'm not sure if that's a question or a statement, but yes, I mean, John Lynch even mentioned Patrick Mahomes the other day when he was talking about Trey Lance's game and what they wanted to be. Obviously, they've mentioned Mahomes with the Garoppolo and Alex Smith comparisons as far as a veteran quarterback being the guide for the rookie in the first year. So, yes, Lance has a lot of those physical tools. He's not as big as Allen, who's a complete tank who can run some people over. But Trey, remember, is only 21 years old. He could still add some bulk. But I mean, he's got size. He's got the arm. Got the smarts, too. That's what the 49ers love. And they hope that they can continue imparting more knowledge on Lance than they did before. Now, I mean, Rich Gangarello's departure, I think, surprised the 49ers a little bit. But those, questions about Brian Griese's playing career, saying, oh, he was mediocre. Well, Rich Gangarello was an NFL quarterback. So, it's not, you're not playing the position as the quarterback's coach. You are tasked with taking knowledge and imparting it on the players who are actually taking part in these football games. And that's the case that we're seeing here. Griese has that knowledge. We'll see if he can impart it moving forward. Does the hiring of Griese indicate the 49ers might keep a small QB room? It seems like Griese might have a role like a backup QB would, imparting knowledge, etc. I'm not sure. I don't think that we know enough to be able to draw that conclusion based on what's happened. I think that in general, teams like to carry 2 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster only if possible because it opens up a roster spot elsewhere. But including the practice squad, you have 3 there during the regular season. I don't think that will change this season. I think the 49ers will still carry 3 because you need another one in case of an emergency. Because at the end of the day, you're carrying quarterbacks because of roster needs. If one guy gets hurt and you only have 2 in the whole building, well, then you're scrambling to bring another guy into the building and bring him up to speed with the playbook. The way that it worked this past season is the Niners had Garoppolo, Lance, Sudfeld. When Garoppolo got hurt and Lance played, then you had Sudfeld as the backup, and you felt decent, at least knowing that Sudfeld had been immersed in the offense and that you didn't need to bring in anybody off the street. So I don't think that this will have much, impact on the size of the 49ers quarterback room. What is the 49ers cap number as of this morning? That's a good question. Why don't we open up the spreadsheet? Let's go here. 2022 49ers build your roster. Now there's going to be 2 49ers cap numbers. One on the spreadsheet here. This is against the 53-man roster. So this is future facing about 7 million because they added about 3 million yesterday with some adjustments on the 2021 cap, incentives met and incentives not met. And we can check out over the cap number to see what the current offseason number is, which is going to be a top 51 number. And they're 1 million over right now. So the 49ers they got their 3 million in carryover, and the top 51 is 1 million over. They're going to need to be under by the start of the new league year, which means if they're only 1 million over, there are moves they can make before the start of the new league year that don't pertain to Jimmy Garoppolo. So theoretically, I think they could be under without trading or releasing Jimmy Garoppolo. But it's still a long way away. It's still like 11 days away from the start of the new league year. I'm just saying the 49ers have flexibility with how to go and skin this cap moving forward financially. So that's your 49ers cap update. There's a nice picture of Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo. I love that one. That was a good one. Looked like that was SoFi Stadium maybe from the start of the season. With this hire, what backup QB is logical now? I think they're still all logical. Again, Tyrod Taylor, if the 49ers really want to get aggressive with a veteran backup quarterback, he worked under Anthony Lynn. I don't think that you limit your backup QB options because I think that, again, I think too many people are thinking of Brian Griese, the player, and being like, okay, well, the 49ers, now they're going to have to get a backup that's just like Brian Griese, the player. No, it's not about Brian Griese, the player. It's about the wealth of knowledge that Brian Griese brings and hopefully for the 49ers' sake, is able to impart on the quarterback room. And that is that Elway pocket passing athleticism hybrid, all in one with the Shanahan offensive knowledge. So, and then again, Shanahan's offensive knowledge and scheme, that's going to evolve in different ways this year. Mike McDaniel was the primary architect of the run game over the past 5 seasons. He's gone. He's in Miami. Anthony Lynn is now aboard. So you're going to want guys that are going to be able to fit the nuances that Anthony Lynn's vision modifies the 49ers with, right? So again, the coaching staff is going to adapt to the players. The coaching staff is going to impart its knowledge on the players, and the 49ers are going to move from there. So I don't think it's going to limit them in that quarterback market. Tarvarius Moore is now on the roster builder. Are you saying Dante Johnson? Have the 49ers re-signed Dante Johnson? Did I miss it? Because Dante Johnson isn't on there. I mean, you could add Dante Johnson on the free agent list, but I added Tarvarius Moore. There's some dispute regarding Tarvarius Moore. This might interest some of you. The last I checked, Tarvarius Moore's camp thinks that his contract hasn't told, that he should be a free agent right now. And the 49ers believe that it has told, and they have him on his roster. I don't know if it had been resolved, but the reason I kept him off the roster is because I didn't think it had been resolved. I hadn't heard for sure it had been resolved. I know there was reports saying that it had been, or at least that it had told, but I thought that it was still under dispute. So I guess we'll find out for sure. I guess I should have asked John Lynch at the NFL Combine. Apologize for not doing that, but I'll move forward and do that at the start of free agency to figure it out. But I put Tarvarius Moore on the roster. I guess we could take him off in case something changes. Any thoughts on constant comparisons between multifaceted combine participants and Deebo Samuel? Seems like you keep hearing this guy can be the next Deebo. Used to be the Taysom comparison. Yeah, I mean, Deebo Samuel was the toast of the NFL Combine, right? Especially before all the workouts started, before guys started running inflated 40 times, 4 twos for the NFL television viewing sake. Everybody was talking about Deebo. I mean, he did something that we'd never seen before: 1,500 receiving yards, 500 rushing yards this season. We haven't seen that before at the NFL level. So he's bound to be talked about. He's bound to be a prototype. He's bound to be the type of player that teams seek out. And, at the end of the day, that's just kind of how it is, right? That you try to emulate greatness, but it's not easy to emulate greatness because greatness is rare. So that's my thought on it. I think a lot of people are going to talk about trying to find the next Deebo, but good luck to finding a guy who could beat man coverage as a receiver and also be one of the top, if not the top running back in the league, and also be a complete truck in the open field as far as this, just take your soul mentality goes on yards after the catch. I mean, that's a hell of a combination that you don't see any players, maybe no other players in the NFL. I mean, no other players in NFL history. I mean, Deebo is unique. Again, he's the first 1,500, 500 club guy, and teams are going to say that they can imitate it. It's the sincerest form of flattery, but I'm not so sure that they're going to be successful. Do you think the 49ers have an interest in bringing in a top cornerback in free agency this year? Yes, but top cornerback in free agency might mean really, really expensive. So I think that their interest realistically, they're going to be interested in everybody. They're going to check on a price on everybody. But realistically, they're going to go for somebody who's a veteran who they can get on a better deal because this is a rush over coverage team. It always has been. So, I mean, that's why I brought up Jason Verrett the other day. They got him on a hell of a deal in 2020, and he was a star for them that year because he was coming off of an injury, and they're able to get him. Can they do that again? Maybe. If they can, that might be the way to go for the 49ers. Will we ever get a Lombardi vision of the roster builder? So you want me to build my team? I did it, but I didn't share it yet. So I'll do it today. I'm a bit tired. I only got a couple hours of sleep last night. So, I'll get it done for you guys. You'll see the roster. Maybe that's something to do before free agency starts here. Still waiting to see what exactly happens here on the Garoppolo front. You got so many other things that are going on, but I guess I should do one before stuff starts happening because that way people won't accuse me of cheating and waiting for something to happen and saying it was more accurate. So I'll do it now. Long story short, I'll do it now. Do the Niners need more of a tall receiver or a speedster downfield? Shanahan's offense, I think, relies more on that speedster type. They're not running many fades and, it's more of a precision offense instead of a just toss it up and let the guy go get it kind of offense over the DB. So I think that the speed weapon you saw Travis Benjamin tried to reprise that role this year, that speed weapon is in there to stretch the field, open up the intermediates. Worked against the Cardinals in Trey Lance's first start. By the way, those of you watching this for the first time, go and check it out. I mean, I got every snap of Trey Lance's debut against the Cardinals broken down. We got 4 more episodes to go to break down the Texans. And one thing that really stood out to me was how the 49ers, really, really relied on Travis Benjamin, who had hardly played up until that point, right? Up until the point of week 5 against the Cardinals. And then when he played, he's just this decoy. They're using him to stretch the field. He's dragging 3 defenders with him. Stuff opens up in the intermediate part of the field. And I think the 49ers will really try that kind of offensive strategy. Maybe in reverse. Maybe they'll get that guy open over the top if it's somebody other than Travis Benjamin, and they'll go for it. So I think that speed threat is really big in Kyle Shanahan's offense. How do the 49ers improve their O-line? Well, what a loaded question. I mean, this is one that we can go through. Boy, let's go to my page on The Athletic here, and let's go to State of the 49ers Offensive Line Edition. I mean, I could dedicate a whole show to this question. State of the 49ers Offensive Line, right there. Oh, my God, I got to log into The Athletic here. You tell me I have to subscribe to this? What do they think they are? Gosh. No, now I can't even log in. You guys better not steal my password. Let's see this on the screen. I don't think it's going to show up. Better not. There we go. It turns out I do have an Athletic account, which is good since I work for them. Here, 49ers offensive line. Let's see. Where can they improve? This is a really good question from Mike. Well, red is bad and blue is good. Trent Williams is obviously good. Swing tackle wasn't good. Anybody buying Trent Williams at left tackle, we see a lot of red. Left guard was good. So you don't want to get worse at left guard. I say re-sign Laken Tomlinson. Center was good. Good news coming out of the combine is that it sounds like Alex Mack is leaning toward returning. He's currently in Ireland on vacation. Right guard, bad. I think you want to upgrade there. That's where Aaron Banks has got to come in for the 49ers. Right tackle, mixed bag. McGlinchey got hurt. It's funny. McGlinchey was better at pass blocking than run blocking this year. Tom Compton was way better at run blocking than pass blocking. So you look at that. I say you need McGlinchey back and playing well. You want him blue in both facets. You need to upgrade at right guard, and you need to upgrade at depth. And you got to make sure you don't lose left guards. You got to re-sign Tomlinson or get an upgrade there. You need to make sure your rehab and development continues well with McGlinchey. And you need to make sure that development there in Banks continues plowing forward as well as it should, because he's a former second-round pick. If all those things happen, I think you're in a much better position as the 49ers than you were to end this past season, because you have a good, solid starting 5, and you have Brunskill, restricted free agent, who I think they bring back as a potential rover like he was in 2019, playing tackle, doing all that stuff. All right, guys, I'm going to do a dedicated Q&A this weekend, so worry not. Thank you, Blake. Appreciate it. Hopefully you enjoyed the show on Brian Griese. That's how we started. Where is he? I lost the picture of Brian Griese. Oh, no, here he is. Mike Shanahan with white hair. Oh, man. There he is. Griese, Elway, Shanahan, Griese with ESPN. To me, this hire is simple for the 49ers. They're trying to impart knowledge that might relate to the history of the prototype for the Shanahan quarterback. So while Griese doesn't have coaching experience, he knows the game in a unique way that Shanahan feels applies well to coaching Trey Lance. You consider where his career started. It started under Mike Shanahan because Denver drafted Griese ahead of John Elway's final season. We talk about precision from the pocket and the ability to run. You meld the two together, and that's what Elway was. And it's funny because even after Elway retired, before they were about to hand the keys over to Griese, Mike Shanahan made a last-ditch effort to try to bring this guy, Steve Young, into the Broncos. It didn't work. Steve Young wanted to spend more time with his family. He wanted to retire. So that, ship sailed, and Griese took over as a starter. But still, Young, Elway, the idealized versions of the Shanahan quarterback. The reason they didn't draft Mac Jones, they want a guy that can run. Griese was there for that. Griese has experience covering the league. The 49ers hope that he can impart that knowledge, the knowledge of, quarterbacks like this into Trey Lance as a conduit, for that. So we'll see what happens. These were all the talking points. And then he met Kyle Shanahan with Tampa Bay in 2003 or 2004 when Kyle was the offensive quality control coach. Anyway, everybody subscribe. Thanks again for coming on to and watching the show. We'll talk to you all soon. And if you sub now, watch those Trey Lance breakdowns because we're on episode 5 coming up. Might record that a little bit later today. All right, everybody take care. Thanks again.